So today I want to talk about something that should terrify every American strategist who understands history. Not recent history, but the deep structural history that reveals patterns most people never see. There is a historical pattern so consistent, so undeniable, that once you understand it, you will realize what is happening in Iran is not new. It has happened before, multiple times across centuries to multiple empires. And every single time, the outcome has been the same. The empire that attacks Iran either collapses, withdraws in failure, or is permanently weakened. America, despite all its technological superiority, despite all its military spending, despite all its confidence, is about to become the next example. Let me walk you through the history, geography, mathematics, and strategy that explains why Iran has never been successfully conquered and why America will not be the exception. Part 1. The Graveyard of Empires. History is not random events. History is a pattern. And the pattern with Iran is clear. Every major empire that tried to conquer Persian territory has failed. Alexander the Great conquered Persia in 330 BC. His empire collapsed shortly after his death, and Persian identity reasserted itself. Rome tried for centuries to control Persian territory. It failed. Rome and Persia fought to exhaustion, and both empires eventually collapsed from the cost. The Arab Caliphate conquered Persia in the 7th century and imposed Islam. But within generations, Persians had absorbed and transformed Arab culture into Persian Islamic civilization. The conquerors were culturally conquered. The Mongols devastated Persia in the 13th century, killing millions. But within 2 generations, Mongol rulers had adopted Persian language, administration, and culture. Again, the conquerors were absorbed. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979, attempting to extend control toward the Iranian border. The war bankrupted the Soviet economy, shattered Soviet morale, and contributed directly to the collapse of the entire Soviet system. You might say, but those were different times, different technologies, different warfare. Modern America, with its drones, satellites, and precision missiles, is not comparable to ancient empires. That is exactly the mistake every empire makes before it fails. The pattern is not about technology. The pattern is about geography, demography, strategic depth, and the mathematics of occupation. And those fundamentals have not changed. Part 2, why Iran cannot be conquered. So let me explain the geography and the mathematics. Iran is 4 times larger than Iraq. It has a population of 90 million people. It is surrounded by mountain ranges, the Zagros Mountains in the west, the Alborz Mountains in the north, and vast deserts in the interior. To successfully occupy and control a country of this size and terrain, military doctrine requires a ratio of approximately 20 soldiers per 1,000 civilians. For a population of 90 million, that means you need at minimum 1.8 million soldiers on the ground. But that is just for basic occupation. If the population is actively resisting, if there is an insurgency, if the terrain is mountainous and allows guerrilla warfare, you need significantly more. Realistically, to occupy and control Iran, America would need between 3 and 4 million troops on the ground. Here is the problem. The entire active duty U.S. military has 1.3 million personnel, and those personnel are not all combat troops. That number includes logistics, administration, support services, everything. The actual number of combat infantry available for a ground occupation is far smaller. So even if America deployed every single soldier it has, it would not have enough personnel to occupy Iran. And here is the deeper problem. America cannot deploy every soldier. It has commitments around the world, NATO in Europe, bases in Asia, forces protecting global trade routes. America cannot pull everyone out and send them to Iran because then the entire global system it maintains would collapse. Part 3, the inverted military pyramid. And this brings me to a fundamental flaw in American military structure that almost nobody talks about. Throughout history, successful empires built their militaries as pyramids. At the base of the pyramid, you have infantry, the cheapest and most flexible resource. At the top, you have specialized forces, cavalry or ships or aircraft. The infantry does the occupation, controls territory, interacts with populations. The specialized forces provide support when needed. America has inverted this pyramid. The entire American military strategy is built on air power, on technology, on expensive systems at the top of the pyramid. And the base, the infantry, has been neglected. Why? Because of the military-industrial complex. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, these companies do not make profit from infantry. They make profit from selling $100 million F-35 jets, from selling billion-dollar Patriot missile systems, from selling advanced technology that requires constant upgrades and maintenance contracts. So American military strategy has been designed not to win wars efficiently, but to maximize profit for defense contractors. And this creates a fundamental vulnerability. When you face an enemy that uses cheap, simple, mass-produced weapons like drones, your expensive high-tech systems become economically unsustainable. America is spending $3 to $10 million per interceptor missile to shoot down Iranian drones that cost $50,000 to produce. The cost asymmetry is devastating. America is spending 60 to 200 times more per engagement than Iran. This is not sustainable. This is economic attrition warfare, and America is losing. Part 4, the mathematics of attrition. Let me walk you through the mathematics so you understand exactly why this matters. Iran has launched thousands of drones in this conflict. Let us say each drone costs $50,000 to produce. America fires 2 interceptor missiles at each drone to ensure a kill. Each interceptor costs approximately $5 million. So every time Iran launches a $50,000 drone, America spends $10 million to stop it. Iran launched 2,000 drones in a single attack wave. That cost Iran $100 million. America spent $20 billion defending against it. And here's the critical point. Iran can sustain this economically. Iran produces its drones domestically. Iran has been preparing for this war for 20 years, building factories, stockpiling components, training engineers. America, on the other hand, has to import interceptor missiles from defense contractors who cannot produce them fast enough to replace what is being used. American interceptor stockpiles are depleting. And when those stockpiles are gone, Iran will still be launching drones, but America will have nothing left to stop them with. This is the ancient Persian strategy. You do not defeat your enemy in a single decisive battle. You exhaust them. You bleed them economically, logistically, psychologically, until they cannot sustain the fight anymore. And then you win without ever having defeated them militarily. This is exactly what Iran is doing to America right now. Part 5, the will to fight. And now let me talk about something that no amount of technology can compensate for, the will to fight. Iran views this conflict as an existential war. Iran has been preparing for this war for 20 years. Iran has mapped every American base in the region. Iran has studied every American tactic. Iran has built an entire military-industrial complex designed specifically to fight America asymmetrically. And most importantly, the Iranian population is unified. They see this as a defensive war, a war of survival. In America, public support for this war is approximately 40%. Congress is divided. The administration had no plan beyond the initial bombing campaign because they assumed Iran would simply surrender after being hit. But Iran has not surrendered. Iran is fighting back. And America has no political will to sustain a long, grinding war that costs billions of dollars per week with no clear end in sight. This is exactly what happened to the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. The Soviets had overwhelming military superiority. They had more troops, more tanks, more aircraft than the Afghan resistance could ever hope to match. But after years of grinding attrition, after billions of rubles spent, after thousands of Soviet soldiers killed, after the war became politically toxic at home, the Soviets withdrew. Not because they were militarily defeated on the battlefield, but because the cost of continuing was greater than any possible benefit from winning, and the Soviet Union collapsed shortly after. America is following the exact same trajectory. Part 6, the 4 dimensions of warfare. Now let me explain something that most military analysts completely miss. War is not one-dimensional. War is not just about who has more tanks or more aircraft or more advanced technology. War has 4 dimensions: military, economic, political, and informational. America is trying to win on the military dimension and hoping that winning militarily will automatically give them victory on the other 3 dimensions. Iran is doing the opposite. Iran is using military actions to shape the economic, political, and informational dimensions. And this is why Iran is winning. Economically, Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes. By threatening to close or disrupt that strait, Iran can spike global oil prices to $150 per barrel or higher, triggering a global recession. This economic leverage gives Iran influence over nations that depend on Gulf energy. Politically, Iran has positioned itself as the defender against American aggression. Qatar, Oman, and even Saudi Arabia are distancing themselves from American positions because they see that America cannot guarantee their security anymore. Informationally, Iran is winning the global narrative war. The world sees America bombing civilian infrastructure, threatening to destroy an entire civilization, using genocidal rhetoric. And the world is turning against America. This is how wars are actually won, not by destroying more targets, but by making the cost of continuing the war unacceptable across all 4 dimensions simultaneously. And Iran understands this. America does not. Part 7, the petrodollar, and the collapse of empire. And now I want to explain the deepest level of what is at stake here. Since 1973, the global oil trade has been conducted primarily in US dollars. This is called the petrodollar system. And this system is what allows America to print money without causing hyperinflation, because there is constant global demand for dollars to buy oil. This system is what funds America's massive military budget, its global base network, its entire imperial structure. But the petrodollar system requires one thing. The Gulf oil must flow safely to global markets, and the Gulf states must trust that America can protect them. Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz threatens both of those requirements. If Gulf states can no longer trust American protection, if their water desalination plants and food supply infrastructure are vulnerable to cheap Iranian drones that America cannot stop, then those Gulf states will recalculate their entire security strategy. And if those Gulf states stop recycling their oil revenues into US financial markets, if they stop investing in US stocks and bonds and AI companies, the American economy collapses from within. This is not speculation. This is happening right now. The signals are everywhere. And this is why this war is not just about Iran. This is about whether the American imperial system can survive. Part 8, the pattern repeats. So let me bring this all together. Every empire that has attacked Iran has either collapsed, withdrawn, or been permanently weakened. Alexander's empire collapsed. Rome exhausted itself. The Arab Caliphate was culturally absorbed. The Mongols were assimilated. The Soviet Union bankrupted itself and collapsed. America is next, not because Iranian soldiers will march into Washington, D.C., but because the cost of this war, financially, politically, reputationally, economically, will become unbearable. America will be forced to withdraw from the Middle East. And when it does, the region will reorganize around two powers, Israel and Iran. And the global order that America has maintained for 80 years will fracture. This is not a prediction. This is a pattern. And patterns this consistent do not break. Subscribe for more analysis of this conflict and the historical forces shaping it, explained clearly and honestly. And tell me in the comments, do you think America can break this historical pattern, or will it become just another empire that failed in Iran? I will see you next time.